Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Stacy's going to do the roll call.
Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite is absent. Councilman Brian Locks.
Councilman Brian Locks, present.
Councilwoman Ann Heffernan is absent. Councilwoman Michelle Coletti.
Councilwoman Michelle Coletti, 2nd District, present.
Councilwoman Sarah Akbarali.
Councilwoman Sarah Akbarali, 3rd District, present.
Councilman Gary Donovan.
Councilman Gary Donovan, 4th District, present.
Councilman Edward McMillan.
Councilman Edward McMillan, 5th District, present.
Councilwoman Dawn Callahan.
Dawn Callahan, present, 6th District.
Councilwoman Catherine Tucker is absent. Councilman Christopher Vargo.
Councilman Christopher Vargo, 8th District, present.
Councilwoman Katie Muller.
Councilwoman Katie Muller, 9th District, present.
Councilman Stephen Johnstone is absent, and Chairman Nicholas Pascal.
Councilman at-large Nicholas Pascal, present.
Good evening, everyone. I am Finance Chair Sarah Akbarali, and first on our order of business tonight is our Tax Assessor, Department Head Anne Marie Gradoya. Gradoya? Okay. Hi.
Where is it? Right there?
There you go.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Does anybody have any questions?
Did you want to present the salaries to us?
No, 'cause
Or-
I don't know what it is. Yeah,
I'll
I
have
do,
Mr.
but
Taylor
I'm
come
just
up and do
present.
that. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
So you just want me to say the salaries?
Here, they have a budget.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you very much. You can see the salaries on page 58 of your book. Modest increases here. That some of them appear quite large budget to budget, and I thought it might be helpful to let you know what's going on with the different unions in the city and how they are impacting these numbers. 1103, which is our we talked about last night, CWA, is our management union. That union added a 4th step on July 1st, 2023. So that's a year ago. But that was not in the budget. It was in our contingency because it wasn't announced yet. So that is not in the 24 budget. It is in the 24 actuals. And so that increase is about 3 to 5%. And I did pass around a document today kind of outlining this. So that increases 3 to 5%. On top of that, everybody got their 2.25% raise this year. So that all played into 24. And then in 25, we're budgeting flat at that time because the union's out of contract. 681's a bit of a wild ride so far as what happened with them. They were out of contract at the end of last fiscal year, and so there were no increases in the budget. As we came out of the contract, what happened is they eliminated step 1. So now if you're going to get hired by the city, you're going to be hired at what used to be step 2, which is now step 1. You guys are keeping up. I'm proud of you. It's a bit of a mind game. And they added another step at the top. So basically, it's still step 1 through 4. It's just that they were 2, 3, 4, and now 5. So those increases were roughly around 1.75% for that additional step. And that went to everyone. It didn't matter how long you were here. So, and then their raises were 2.5%. So they got a 1.75 plus a 2.5 at the beginning of 24. And at the beginning of 12, they'll get another 2.5% on that, and we all put money in the bank and save. You know, it's compounding interest. So there's quite an impact, and you're going to see that in a lot of the budgets as well as in this one right here. If you indulge me just a second, when a few weeks ago we came before you and you approved an economic development director, and there was a range of 110 to 130 that you said we could go with. It's 110 in the book, but we believe we can get somebody for 130 in the very near future. So I just wanted to put that bug in your ear on that. We do have some other items that we can talk about with the other departments when we get to those.
If that change is made, can you just make sure to send that to us?
I will.
Thank you
Absolutely.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I did. Yeah, for the tax assessment on page 58, assessment technician, it says 0. Approved amount 0. That's okay. But there's approved amounts for FY 24 through 25. Do we need to add a number there?
50.
Yep.
Sorry. Can't. I'm going the wrong way here.
I think it's pretty much the same thing that I have here.
What do you
I
have?
know it's a little more. No.
I'm sorry. What was your question?
The assessment technician, it's showing the number of employees is 0. For FY 23, there's $0 in the budget. But for FY 24 through 25, we have an approved amount.
I think these sheets, I've tried every year to make them easier to read.
Okay.
I believe the 0 you're looking at is in the variance.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I've tried.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to double check.
We get a similar
Yeah.
question.
Absolutely. No, that's fine.
Fiscal year 24 is the technician was hired in December.
In December.
So that's
Okay.
why there's a partial
Thank you.
there. And then this year I put in the full amount.
Excellent. And we still have 2 employees for assessment data entry specialists?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody on the council have any questions for Mr. Taylor and Marie? Councilwoman Coletti?
What is an assessment technician?
An assessment technician is basically like an assessment clerk. She helps in the front. She answers phone, she files, she works on the homeowners program, the freeze program, the veterans program, and various other. It's going to take some time, but it's going well.
Okay, and so the doubling of the salary is,
No, there's no doubling of the salary.
Okay.
She started at the end of the
oh, I see.
yeah, in the middle of a fiscal year.
Got it,
So
Right.
okay.
got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So starting in July, she'll be here for the
Straighten
full.
up. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions for Anne Marie or Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Councilman Vargo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll do my best to get them all done at once. Just as a preliminary matter, since we're on the subject of the salaries, because this is kind of true for throughout the whole budget, but since it partakes to tax assessment, is it correct that in fiscal year 24, if a position was not going to be filled for the full year, and it was anticipated that it was going to be 6 months, 8 months, whatever it was, the 24 budget included a prorated amount for that salary, and now because it's filled for the full fiscal year 25, it's the full salary?
That's correct, I believe, right? No? Okay.
You didn't know it wasn't there. But Anne Marie doesn't know that answer. There were, I think, 3 or 4 particular salaries where that was the case. And one of them was just the increase to the mayor's salary, which wasn't even effective until December. That was a fair budgeting tool. But I wouldn't say that by and large for all departments, all positions that were open at the time that we did the budget.
Okay.
That would not be true.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, now I think my questions are for you. The overtime increase is largely driven by the fact that we're coming into a reval year, right?
Yes.
Okay. And is that the same rationale for the increase in the professional services?
No, the increase in professional services are the costs that are going up for us to go to these meetings because, the cost of everything has gone up. So, and then I have, oh yeah, thanks. I have 3 certified professionals in the office. So
Okay. The Board of Assessment Appeal overtime, I understand that's because your office supplies their clerical staff,
that's
correct?
correct.
Being that I'm very familiar with the process. Is that number light in due to the fact because it's a reval year, there's probably going to be hefty appeals coming up. Do you feel that that number is accurate given what is coming down the pike at the end of the year?
I can use my regular overtime budget as well.
Okay, so you could
Yeah.
you can flow between the two.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Is there an option to put the historic records on an online searchable database instead of storing them on microfilm and having
Yeah,
to store
so
them?
that's a great question. Currently, they're being scanned and microfilmed, and I have them up on now. If you go to the computer, the taxpayer's computer, when you walk into my office, you can see you could look up the current current year field cards, but you can also go to the 1970s and the 1990 field cards. And then we're in the process of finishing the 1990s and starting the 1960s, and we have the 1950s, and those are all going to be on the website, my assessor website, so that you no longer have to come to our office.
So the microfilm is just a stopgap measure.
That-
It's a bridge to get.
That's the microfilm is for if there's a fire.
Okay, but eventually the idea is to get them off of paper onto microfilm, off of microfilm online.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Well, currently they're on flash drive, and the flash drive we put it on the computer for taxpayers to come in and look them up. But it's easy just to take that and put them online as well.
Great. The exterior field review. Can you explain that process?
Exterior field review for the building permits, or for
It's on the backup document. It says completed annual exterior field review to determine if new businesses are.
that's for personal property.
Personal
Yeah,
property,
that's for
okay.
personal property. So every year in August and September, me and one other staff or 2 of the other staff, one drives, and we make a list of all the businesses in the city, and we go drive by everyone and check. And we find a lot of businesses that did not register their trade name or come to City Hall and get any permits or did not file with the state, file an LLC and didn't get to us. So we pick up many businesses by doing the exterior review. And we also find businesses that are no longer there that never came to tell us that. So we want to make sure we take them off the tax rolls so we're not inflating our grand list.
Gotcha.
So we've cleaned up a lot in the past few years. So
Great. Who do we presently use for the reval process? Is it still Vision?
it is Vision.
Are we under contract with them, or does that go out to bid every so often?
That went out to bid, and we're currently in contract with Vision. We started our reval, and our reval will be finalized for the October 1st, 2024, this October 1st.
You're familiar with the mayor's initiative of registering or imposing a fine or something for out-of-state license plates in the city where folks reside in West Haven, but they have out-of-state plates?
Yes, so currently we are in the process of going out to bid, and we spoke to a company, and that is currently working on a few other, in a couple other municipalities.
Can you explain how the process will work?
So the process is the company is an investigation company, so they go out after hours and scan all the license plates. So this not only picks up the out-of-state license plate, but it also picks up license plates that may be registered in another city. So if they're parked here and they're a resident here, they have to pay West Haven. They have to have their cars registered in West Haven. It will also give us all the unregistered vehicles as well.
So if they determine that a vehicle has been here for quite some time, and then the assessor performs their function to figure out what the taxes are, then does the owner of that vehicle get sent a bill for so many years back taxes? Is there a cap on that?
Yeah, we go back 3 years. So this company not only goes and scans all the license plates, but it also does an investigation. It can prove that they gas up here in West Haven. I mean, they do a lot of research, and then they send the letter to the taxpayer.
So it's well documented.
It's well documented. It's very transparent, and I will be happy to share that as we go along into the process with you. And then, of course, it comes to me, and we make a decision on what we should do. And then I go and price the motor vehicles and create a tax bill for them.
Is there going to be an administrative appeal process that's outside of the Board of Assessment Appeals if somebody receives a letter and they are adamant that they don't live here, they're just visiting or whatever? Is there a midterm appeal?
I believe they could appeal with the company and myself. I believe, but don't quote me on that. I have to read the contract a little.
Okay. And I think my final question is if we can jump to page 121 of the budgets, the capital non-recurring. I believe your office, the top line, property revaluation, put in a request for $100,000, and the recommendation is $50,000.
Yeah, the revaluation is $153,000 total.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that 100 was put under fiscal year 25. Yeah, you could explain this better, Dave.
Really didn't particularly request that. That was just what I put there. So we typically would accrue $100,000 a year, so that when it was time to do the reval, we had enough money to pay for it.
Okay.
So we, seeing that the bill is only $153,000, we decided to cut that number to 50. Theoretically, we would, and the theory is that we'd have enough money reserved. When it comes time to pay that bill, we don't have to hit the general fund all at once.
So because this year is a reval year, you already have money saved
Oh,
away.
yeah, absolutely.
And so you only need another 50 to
That 50 is to get us going into the next reval.
So it's believed that there's enough money available now to pay
Pay
for
the 153.
to pay the 153, and this is a jump start for the next pool of money.
Correct, which
Got
is
it.
our practice.
Perfect.
If you look at the 5-year plan, you'll see that too.
Great.
It's in there.
Thank you both. I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone else have any questions for Anne Marie? Seeing there are none, thank you so much, Anne Marie. I
Okay,
really
thank you.
appreciate it. Absolutely.
If anyone thinks of anything, you are welcome to give me a call
Thank you.
or email me. Okay. Good night.
Good night. Up next, we have tax collector Rachel Amassi. Tax manager.
Hello, everyone. Lots of new faces this year.
Hi, how are you?
And some familiar. So, do you have what questions do you have for me?
If you wanted to go over the salaries and any changes that were made
So,
in your presentation, that would be
yeah, currently the salaries are all just the contractual, as David stated, the contractual increases to top step. But nothing else was changed in this year's other than that.
And senior revenue collector, there are currently 3 positions filled.
There are currently 2 and 1 listed online. Victor
Okay.
just switched from there to the building department. We're in the process of hiring another one.
Okay, so currently 2 and 1 listed online. Does anyone have any questions for Rachel? Councilman Vargo.
I'm gonna be hated. Is there a policy in your office to replace equipment every so often? Because I saw that in your notes that you're replacing 15-year-old printers, and that just seems like a long time.
Yeah, so there in the city in general, I don't think there is a policy like that. But we've had stuff failing. We've had our validators failing. We've had our printers failing, and then we're stuck with only 2 working registers, or at one point we had only 2, and so I don't want to be in that crunch again. I want to have backup. I want to be able to replace at the equipment that absolutely needs to be replaced that is not going to be able to be fixed anymore.
So right, so there is no attrition plan or where every 5 years you replace that one printer and then that'll last a few, and then you just roll it that way.
No.
Okay.
That I think that would go through IT.
Yeah.
Like that kind of policy, but as
I'm
far
gonna broach
as
it with them.
as far as I know, there's not a policy like that.
Okay. Are there any options for electronic tax bills to help alleviate the cost of printing and postage?
No. We
So-
have to, by law, mail
Okay.
the tax bill. Even if people sign up for electronic notifications, they, by law, have to be mailed the tax bill.
Okay. I saw that we're going to start putting on UCCs for backowed personal property taxes.
You can only lien current year for UCC,
Okay.
so we can't go backwards with the lien.
Okay.
But yes, it is something that's in the works once I'm back to full staff.
Is there a reason why that hasn't been a part of our practice?
I can't answer that. I've only been here a few years,
Okay.
and I believe the answer to it is because the person that used to do it for the city, when they retired, they never refilled that position, and this was quite a few years ago.
So we missed opportunities of securing personal
lien.
property taxes.
Yes.
Okay. I think I'm all set. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Rachel, for office repairs, is that mostly upgrades to the equipment, or are there other repairs being done as well?
That is most likely when our repairs are being done to the validators
Okay.
or printers. If we can get it repaired instead of replaced, I have put money into that.
Anyone else have any questions for Rachel? Councilwoman Callahan.
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Hi.
I just had a question as far as the salaries go. So I saw that a lot of them are in the average range, but some are 18 and 12% higher, jumping.
I don't have that. I don't.
It's 60.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally related to what I alluded to earlier. The step increases average around 3 to 5%.
Gotcha.
But some of them are higher,
Okay.
and depending on the role.
I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All set? Excellent. Anyone else have any? Yeah, absolutely.
I just on the printers, I'll have to look into what Rachel's issue is, but most of our printers and copiers are on I think 5-year leases and are replaced. So that was her perspective is her office. So I'll look into it. I don't know what exactly she's
They can't be
talking
on
about.
the lease.
Yeah. So there you go.
Amory's too. Amory's printers can't be on the lease. So
Right.
we're
Well, we'll look
looking
into.
at alternatives
Yeah.
currently.
Okay.
So I don't know what the reason is, but that's we'll look into that. So it's not system wide.
I did question it already. Anything else?
Any other questions? Councilman Pascal.
Thank you. Is there anything coming up in your department? Any changes that are being made? Any modernizations you want to talk about? Because we can't get to the next person for another 5 minutes. So might as well pick your brain while you're here.
Well, right now we're in the process of hiring a new revenue clerk, which will be a wonderful thing to have another body in the office to help get through stuff. We're currently putting the liens into our system so that all of the information, they've never been entered into the system before, but since they came with the report today, I'm having the staff enter the lien, so that way when they print up, they will have all the information. If anyone calls in, someone will know, okay, you're going to have to check here on the city land records, because they've never been inputted before, so that's going to be a big deal. We're also going through our return mail to try to get people their statements that if they moved and didn't update their addresses, so there's no return address on it. We're trying to go through that and get as many statements out as possible. So other than that, we're getting ready for our assignment. We're getting ready for the suspense. Just busy it's a busy time of year prepping for the next year.
All right, thank you very much.
So you're hiring a new clerk, revenue clerk?
Yes.
Listed there is revenue collection analyst 1 and 2. Is that what you're referring to?
No, the senior revenue clerk is the clerk position.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions for Rachel? Thank you, Rachel. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was nice seeing you all.
You too. We have about 5 minutes until the next meeting.
Yeah, we got about 3. Night. I don't want to mess it up. So far, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, right? Okay. Time is now 6:30. Next on our list is the Registrar's Office, Sherry Lepper and Joanne Calgary. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us come. Does anybody have any questions about our budget that we can answer?
So I have a couple questions,
Sure.
but I'm going to let the council go first. Is anybody on the council? Councilman Vargo?
Yeah.
Anybody but Vargo? Does this thing still work? How are you?
Good. How are you?
How are you?
Good. You're the one that almost ran over in the elevator.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
You were late, probably. Right?
Yes. A few things. I understand that the budget increases are generally being driven by the fact that now we have mandatory early voting.
Yes.
Is there no grant money available to help offset this? Because this is a huge burden on West Haven when it's something we have no control over.
We did get a grant for $10,500 for this year. They can't guarantee if we're going to get a grant every year, but that's what we got so far for $10,500, and the city of West Haven already received it in January.
But that might
So-
not be a recurring.
We don't know. We're going to a conference tomorrow, so we'll ask. That'll probably be one of our questions. We'll ask if there's going to be any more money.
Okay. The 18% increase in administrative wages. Is that also due to the early voting?
It's due to the early voting because they have to. Our office has to be open. The special election was open for 4 days, from 10 to 6. But during the primary, it's going to be 7 days straight, Saturday and Sunday. 10 to 6, but Tuesdays and Thursdays it will be 8 to 8. And then on the general election, it'd be 14 days straight, Saturdays and Sundays. Again, Tuesday and Thursdays, 8 to 8, and the rest of the time is 10 to 6.
And that's only for 2 people?
That's for, well, we hire poll workers because actually we can't, we're certified moderators too, as well as the registrar, and we can't be a moderator for the early voting.
But your office is staffed.
But our office is staffed, and then we hire poll workers.
But your office is staffed by that long stretch of hours.
Oh, yeah,
days by
yeah.
2 people.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
okay.
we'll come in and oversee everything and stuff. But
Sure. And because of that, that is now bumping them up in pay, or in hours rather, that is entitling them to benefits.
there was an issue with that, but I don't think they can offer them benefits because they're only part-time. I don't know, you can talk to the mayor about that.
Okay.
Because I thought the same thing, that, issue the benefits, but she's, because my assistant had benefits at one time when she was appointed, and then the previous administration reduced all that. They reduced the hours of the office. They reduced, I don't want to go back in time, but they reduced all that. So Donna was hoping she can get benefits, but I don't think she can.
Okay.
It's not.
All right. Then finally, I'd like to talk about the line item rental/lease for $25,000.
Yes.
I understand that there is a.
I'm going to show you a letter
Okay.
that I received from the Board of Ed. The mayor received it first. Let's see, I make copies for everybody. So, on top of, it happened right before early voting, and on top of everything, I get handed this letter. And I said to the superintendent, I wish he'd talk to me before handing my letter.
Thank you, Sherry.
So he handed this letter, and I thought we had a great arrangements with the Board of Ed, but I didn't realize it until 3 weeks before the early voting when I couldn't use Carrigan School. And they said we never used Carrigan School before, and it's not handicap accessible. It was the athletic director that I was talking to. And I said, well, I have voting April 2nd. I need the school. You can't have it. So then I wrote to Neil, Mr. Cavallaro. And he told me, by now you should have gotten the letter that I received, which I didn't receive it yet. And he says that, I know I told you you could use Carrigan, but under circumstances, you can't use it anymore. Things changed. And he says, and because it used to be just a couple times a year that there will be voting, and they can't put the risk of children. So every year, Joanne and I go to him and ask him to take election day off, primary day off. New Haven does it. Milford had spring break for the April 2nd. They coordinate with their registrars. And we get shut down every time we go to, they bring it up. And there's one lady that votes at McCrell, which I'm sure you saw it on the way it is. She's just bad-mouthing us and everything, and saying that schools shouldn't be open when there's elections. And the superintendent knows every 4 years we have a presidential preference, and he decided not to close the schools then. So I don't know what else to do. The only thing I could think of that we're thinking of merging 8th, 9th, and 10th, and maybe pay the IA club to have it there, and do the 8th at the bottom level and the 9th and 10th up top. I can't think of where in Allentown. Maybe that's church that's on Malloy School, near Malloy School.
The vertical church.
The vertical church, to merge 5th, 6th, and 7th there.
That's pretty far from 5 and 6.
Any suggestions were up to it because we have no idea. They have to be handicap accessible and has to have parking.
I have a couple questions. Based on Superintendent Cavallero's letter, it isn't so simple to just change the elections. That's not up to us. That's
Right.
statutory by either state and or the federal government.
Correct.
So you have no control over that, correct?
No, we don't.
No, and we know a year in advance when we're going to have the election.
The federal elections, but you may not know what's happening locally.
Well,
for
we
example.
we know the dates though.
Okay.
You know, we know the dates. I mean, he could block them out. I mean, like New Haven, April 2nd, they just closed. They knew they had a lot of snow days that they didn't use, and they just up and closed for the April 2nd presidential preference. And West Haven never does that for us. I think they did it once since I've been in office. They closed for primary.
So the 25,000 is a number that your office is projecting may be needed if you were to rent out other space, but you haven't presently identified what that other space is.
We haven't.
We guesstimated on that figure. I kind of know what the IA will charge us for each election, which is a lot less than what the Elks charged us. But I don't know where I'm going to put the rest of the schools. I do have a call into St. John Vianney. They originally said that they don't rent out, so we can't use their halls because of the liability insurance. But then I talked with Attorney Dorsey, and he told me that to get insurance for that one day would not be a lot.
Somewhat complicated. I mean,
Yeah.
here you are.
When you also have to send out mailers,
Mail,
and
yeah.
as you know, part of the gripe in West Haven is people will vote in one place for one election, somewhere else for some other election,
Right.
then they get confused, they go to the wrong place, they throw their hands in the air, and they get very frustrated. So if we're now,
So if we merge, maybe it won't be as bad. Like if they're at the wrong polling place, then you just go like next door, like the next row. So merging would be an opportunity, and we wouldn't have to use all the schools if we merged, but they don't even want us in the schools.
now from a parent perspective, my son goes to Bailey, and I know that a lot of these schools have metal detectors for the children to get in, but my polling place is at McCrill, and that entrance is completely wide open. So it's from a parent perspective, I understand the frustration, and I sort of agree with that sentiment that if my child needs to go through security to enter the building, but Joe Smith down the road to vote doesn't have to, where's the security in that? The concern or the question I have is, what's the cost of just hiring, a security guard from the company that we use in City Hall or in the schools to?
They are in.
Well, for the special election, Mr. Cavallaro, he hired cops and security guards, but we still had that complaint by that woman at McCrill. McCrill is an issue because there's hardly any parking, and I say, why can't the employees park at the IA club? And the IA club says, yes, we tell them all the time, and then have the voters go there so it won't be crazy. But even if we had, there was security guards the special election and the police officers, and we still got that complaint. Like Savin Rock, I don't know if they can get into the schools because they use the gym. We have the second and third there. I mean, there's one entrance, we could block it off, they can't even get in. And the same thing with Forest, it's in the cafeteria. You come from the outside right there.
Going back to McCrill, I know that if you go in through that entrance, to the right is to the gym. To the left, there are classrooms there. If there's no security guard in that area, as a parent, I would understand that is problematic. But I would think that just posting a security guard at a folding table there for the day would alleviate that problem.
He was there.
He was there.
Because I went in there for the special election. I don't know if there was one there for the April 2nd, but he had a table. He was sitting right where that doorway.
See, I don't remember. I don't recall. I may be wrong. I don't recall somebody being there for the general election in last year.
The general election, they're closed on election day.
Right. Okay. So the general election, they're always closed. But
Yeah, and this year is not going to be an issue, and I already asked, like, we can do it next year, especially it's a presidential election, and we don't want to hear voters saying, oh, they're doing it again. We can't vote for who we want for the president, and there's going to be a lot of people coming out. So, and August 13th is the primary, and November 5th, and schools are closed both days.
what would happen hypothetically if we do not agree to the $25,000 and the Board of Ed then says, I'm not going to open up the schools? What happens?
I have to
Okay.
get the.
That's
have
what I
to-
figured.
I have to get the state involved.
Okay.
There is, I believe, there is a state statute saying it, and I didn't want to have a bad relationship with the Board of Ed because you know how that is. If you don't have a good relationship, they're just going to make it harder for you.
Yeah,
Just
nobody
like-
wants to be adversarial,
So
but
just
it's
like
a lot of
what ha-
money.
Just what
I know.
Just what
Sure.
happened on April 2nd. The principal of McCrill locked the doors
On the voters.
on the voters. The custodian was nice enough to put a sandwich sign saying "Vote here." She took it down. She locked the door, so every time somebody came, the security guard had to get up and open the door. Once school closed, she locked the doors.
Okay.
So,
I guess just
that's why I wrote to Neil.
what I'm just having a hard time with is that that the city is being asked to pay more money because we have more elections that we're mandated to have. So the taxpayers have to pay that.
Mm-hmm.
Now on top of that, the taxpayers might need to pay to be able to exercise their right to vote. It's becoming very expensive to vote, and I'm concerned about
So
that.
true.
And it's not easy moving polling locations. We have these 500-pound blue cabinets, and every time we move, we have to move that with it to store our stuff or equipment, and it's not easy because then we would have to pay somebody to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Sherry, I have a couple questions. One is regarding postage. It's gone up significantly for FY25. Can you explain that to me, please?
Yeah, because last year was the redistricting, so I did one mail run. I talked to many towns around, and they do it for like the primary and the general. That we have to service the voter and let them know where they're voting.
Okay.
So that's why I doubled it, 24,000, and especially if we have to move the polling locations now, I'm gonna have to do it more than all.
Right. Okay. And for other supplies, do you have a list of what other supplies are? It's going to be listed under 53130 on page 43.
Yeah. Other supplies is it's gonna be for all the labels we need for early voting, and we need the envelopes that we have to put in. What else goes under there? The memory card? No, the memory cards don't go there.
If you don't have the list now, you can always
Okay.
email it to us.
Okay.
But yeah,
But
just
I
to
know the
have that
labels.
list.
I know we're gonna need labels
Correct.
and paper
Okay. Thank you.
to print the books.
Any other questions for Sherry? Councilman Donovan.
Hi, how
How
are
are
you?
you? Good. Getting back to the that lease thing, I too was looking at it, and I think it's absurd that we have to go this route, or not. So I know the issue was at McCrill. Did we have any other issues at any other schools?
McCrill and Seth Haley. Those are the only schools where we have issues that I know of. I mean, that's not on the way it is. Seth Haley, their doors were locked too. So that we have theirs in the cafeteria. So what I told the moderators to use that one door that's off the side of the school and go in and out that day because they locked the doors.
Because I also agree with Councilman Varga. I don't think that residents should actually have to pay in a way. I mean, it's not physically paying that day, but they are through taxes and whatnot to exercise their right to vote. I believe Mr. Cavallero may or may not change his mind on that. I just I think it's crazy that we have to go this route, and that we even have to put it in there. And like I said, if it was for more security, to hire more security guards there, I would understand that, and change that line item to security guards for that. But I know you were talking about like doing 3 districts in one place, 3 districts.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you what that's gonna.
It'd be a nice.
I will divert my phone number over to both of you.
Believe me, we get a lot of phone calls.
You'll get a lot more, trust me. And I can understand that because people get very confused,
They do.
especially with the different, local and presidential and all this other stuff. You have different places to go vote. The cards coming out very helpful, but I think that this is something we have to look at and maybe discuss with the Board of Ed.
That's what I wanted, and I said to him, I wish we had a discussion before sending me a letter. And to tell me 3 weeks before I couldn't use Kerrigan was hard, because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So the thing I thought was to merge it with Forest. And I think it worked out well.
Oh, good.
It did, I think.
How did the more of a question on how did the early voting go with this particular?
It went well.
It went
Well, we got everything hooked up. We only had 117 voters coming in.
Okay,
But that was because they didn't really know about this election.
Right.
This election was already decided. It's like, it was a trial thing for early voting, but it was a waste of money for the other because they already knew who won.
And we're gonna have early election for all the elections coming up.
All of
right?
it.
So that might alleviate a lot of the traffic as well.
I think that, and I think it will cut down on the absentee ballots too as well. Because I think people will do that instead of absentee.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions for Sherry? Councilwoman Coletti.
So aside from the variance percentages, dollar amount wise, budget's gone up 45%, which is roughly $135,000. So $25,000 of that is the request for potential lease of a location, which I agree with my colleagues on the reasoning. So the other increases are mainly due to the early voting process, you would say?
Yes.
Nothing really outside of that, so it's
No,
all mandatory.
right.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of office hours that we have to keep up.
Especially in that
Special-
Saturdays
yeah,
and Sundays.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Sherry? Thank you, Sherry and Joanne. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank
all
you. If you have any
for your-
questions, feel free to contact us.
Thanks for your consideration.
And if you
And-
can just email the list of
The list
other
of supplies,
please.
Yeah, I'll
Thank
check with
you.
Veronica and Donna. And
Excellent. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
You as well.
Thank you.
Up next, we have our city clerk, Mr. John Lewis, presenting.
What's up?
Hi, Mr. Lewis. How are you?
Good evening, Council. How's everybody doing tonight?
Very well.
Good? Good. Let me actually get you guys. I don't know what you guys actually have, but those are just our budgetary analysis sheets, just so you can see what we are.
So, Mr. Lewis, part-time administration, how many hours are they working?
19.
19, okay.
19.
Does that include healthcare as well?
No.
For part-time? No
No.
healthcare?
No, okay, no. No, anything under 20, I think, is part-time, so it's not included.
Okay.
In any healthcare.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Lewis? Looks pretty good.
No.
I would say, yeah. Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Hey, John.
Hey,
The
Councilman Vargo.
the assistant registration or vital statistics. We lost one and we got one. So is there still just one?
There is just one.
One-
Yes.
one position, not
Yes, it's just a replacement of
Okay.
the
Um,
one for
is,
one. Yeah.
is there an initiative in your office that to make tax lien records available online? Because my understanding is that West Haven has two sets of recording books, one for tax liens and one for regular land records. Is there a way to make that easier?
No, there isn't. We'd all love to make it easier, but sorry how that came out. Yeah, it's one. It's all on the land record. So what we're doing right now, and the reason why we're going to have some overtime in our office is because we received the liens from the tax office. And they're supposed to be in by the 1st of April, I believe. And is it 1st? I know, but I'm saying well, you got them the first. Okay, so we got them the 4th, but they need to all be on 1,400 plus records. They need to all be on the land record. So each one has to be entered and volume and page. So anyone, it's public record. So anybody can go in there and take a look at it at any time, whatever they want to see. But they do exist, and they have to be manually entered, and that's what we're doing. So we needed to. You will see some overtime going forward, only because we need to get them on the record by the 22nd to comply with the law.
Got it. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
How's that, Councilman?
Yes, ma'am.
For assistant REG vital statistics, what exactly is in their job description?
Okay, so the assistant the records for vital statistics would be your birth records, your death, your marriage, your birth, death, marriage. What else you got? Oh yeah, she does also any of the listings. Each department sends information to the office to be listed. We're the keeper of records. No, I'm screaming. Sorry.
That's okay.
We're the keeper of records. So anything that comes in
Yep.
has to come into our office and get clocked in. So whether it be an FOIA or anything, it has to come through the office, get clocked in, and then dispersed to wherever it needs to go. But this is just to say that, it has been entered and it has been officially received by the city of West Haven.
Great.
So that's a part of it, and distributing it to to put online our city notes, that sort of thing. So we have to disperse everything wherever it needs to go, and we have to actually post it in the office.
Right.
So if a meeting is going to happen, which I think you guys know about, scrambling around to make sure
Absolutely.
it gets on time, because the law requires so many days in most instances to get the information on the record for the public. We're here to serve the public. So.
Does anyone else have any questions? Councilman Donovan?
Oh, John, how are
Councilman,
you?
good.
Hey, just this here that you gave us just now.
Yeah.
There's a big difference from what we got handed to this, and I just.
Okay, I'm not sure what you got handed.
We got handed pretty much the same thing here, the analysis sheet.
Okay.
All right, and
I actually wasn't sure if you actually got it, and that was for this year.
we got you got 24-25 requested is 431,000.
Well, okay, so let me explain it to you. The one of the big issues is not different. One of the big differences you'll see is the finance department does not put the salaries and that sort of thing on until it hits the book. So that's why I didn't hand out the salary portion. I mean, I can put that out to you too. I think you have it. The book is going to be the official request from the mayor. So the number's a little different, but we have to allot for, or at least, remember, it's just a budget. So you have some contractual obligations that are going to come up. You have 681's contract, which is, if it gets signed into record, that'll go into effect July 1st. So there'll be the difference will be what's in the book if you guys approve it. So there are some slight differences, but sorry about that.
No need to apologize. I actually looked at it now, and this is just the wages that you handed us. So
right.
And what we got is the whole kit and caboodle.
Exactly.
So that's why it was like there's a little difference.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to confuse you, because the difference there.
Doesn't take much to confuse me. But
No. You got it.
It's all right. But thank you.
I appreciate the progress over the years.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Lewis? Councilwoman Coletti.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Hi, John.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Can you just explain for me a little bit more about other contractual services and
Which
what makes up
line
that
are you on?
$7,000
Okay,
number?
so we have a couple of things going on in the office. We have, I don't know if you've been down in the vault, but there's quite a bit of updating. We have books going back to the 1800s, and that some of them are handwritten, and we're trying to update our books so that they don't go bad. We got to keep the records and keep them fresh. So, and we're running out of space, so to speak. So, if you can see the shelving in there, you can slide the shelving, some of it one side or the other, and some of the books are just so heavy that we have to send them out to be redone. And when you redo the books, it reduces the size of the book. So I can put 2 on a shelf instead of 1. Therefore, I don't have to buy extra shelving and really make the place cramped in. I can get 2 on a shelf, which will double my space. Double my space for whatever the information that needs to. The public has to have access to the actual physical copy. You can go online and get some of the stuff.
Law that it has
That
to be
is the law.
electronic.
Well, it's electronic too, but we only go back 50 years. Probably more than we're required. I think it's 40 or so years. But
Would there be a way to have a one-time conversion of that documentation?
you would probably have a lot more money than this right here to do it over time. We're doing a little bit at a time.
I see.
Plus, if you ever get a chance, come down to the vault and take a look, because there's a lot that has to happen in it. And the idea is, and I hate to say it like this, but the idea is, if the building fell, you want to keep the vault because that's the records. That you don't have that, you have no record, so to speak. And digitizing most of the stuff is okay, but again, you only go back, say, 50 years or so.
Gotcha.
Does that make?
I think so. I think I was just confused by making the big books into little books and then littler books and then again doing it again. So that's how I was thinking.
Well, the books, remember, if
Right.
It depends on the size of the font, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? So and you could compare one of the older books to the newer books, and you can still read it. It was just a lot of wasted space.
I think it's just a general thought process.
And then also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if we're going every day, we have to copy land records, because people come in, they want their deed. They want to make sure their deed hasn't been stolen, that sort of thing. So we print out the deeds, but you need to crease those books sometimes. And the older books don't have the separation that you could take out and put the page on the printer and print it. So you're beating the books up sometimes. You know what I mean? You crease, and
So the $76,000 is for third-party conversion of that project.
That plus we have IQS, which is keeps our records, which is a group that we have that we use for putting the land records on. So if you want to look up your property, you would go to search IQS through the city website, or just just entering it in, and you can look up your property and online. So there is a charge to make copies of that stuff or have it transferred to you. There is a charge for that. We get a piece of that. Even with, say, our budget is $435,000, but we're probably bringing in, I want to say, somewhere about $4 million into the office. So, I think it averages out in the long run. And it's a vital and very important piece of, if not the total network of the city. This office kind of keeps everything. And, if you need something, there should be a copy in the clerk's office.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
And then is that also the cause of the increase from the 52,000 to the 76 from 23 to 24, 25?
Yeah. Well, some things were listed and probably improperly or mixed up or transferred out of one account to another in the past. So that's the biggest change there. But yeah, we have Pentinium, and which is a record keeping death, birth certificates, that sort of thing, and with IQS. And the big issue there now is we're going into contract with both of these going forward. So for the last 10 years, the price has been, say, 65 cents a copy for someone. Okay, for us, excuse me. Now they've bumped it up to 90 cents. The price hasn't changed in 10 years. So we're going to have an increase going forward, and we're just trying to prepare for that and be in line with it so that we're not over budget.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. John, for training and education, there's a pretty big jump. Is there going to be more hours of training?
Well, I plan to get certified myself as a clerk. It's going to take almost 2 years of classes. Plus, I mean, we've got training for the other employees in the office, and I got a great team. I mean, I got to say they're mostly here. My part timer's not here, but these guys are fantastic. I knew a little bit, maybe nothing going in, but they coached me up, and I'm ready to be a part of the clerk body. So we do have a lot of training that needs to take place, and it's just the cost of it.
Is there continued educational training as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Every year you can. Next week is the conference.
Okay.
Yearly conference, and I've been up to Hartford for a few back in January. So, there's some costs associated with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Councilman McMillan.
Yes, sir. Good evening. How are you? Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Lewis.
Good evening, Mr. McMillan.
I just wanted to ask a question. Is archiving services, or if you can explain to me what's the difference between archiving services and other contractual services?
Okay, so I kind of probably lumped them together. Your archiving is archiving your older
okay,
records.
which you said, because
right.
I was wondering why were there two different
right,
lines there.
Right.
Okay.
And the other one is not only with that, you have Pentium and IQS, which is your online service. If you want to get your birth, death, whatever certificate online, you can go online and get it. You'll pay for it online, but then we'll send it to you from here. So we have some costs associated with that. And okay, I'll give you an example. It's $4.95 to put something on for the first page. Say something on a land record, like a sale of a house, something like that.
Okay.
It's $4.95 plus each page after that. It was 65 cents to us, but it's going to be now 90 cents going forward. So it adds up because one transaction could be 25 pages, 30 pages.
So that would fall under
the other contractual
okay.
services.
So then archiving services.
Archiving services would be in the vault.
Okay.
The books that need to be updated, and the other things that are in the vault that need to be taken care of. Plus, we have our election issues costs too, that which probably didn't get into, but we you take this last election that just took place. You have 4 days. We ordered ballots, but we had no idea what the numbers were going to be, so we had to order kind of accordingly, but you just didn't have the numbers on the 4 days of early voting and then the actual day, April 2nd. So we had to order, and then on top of that, we had to order different color ballots because even though the EV, I don't want to lose anybody, but even though the early voting ballots for Democrat and Republican, I had to order canary and cream and, just to separate them so I could look at them and tell what it was instead of trying to enter each one into a machine or something, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit costly, I think, but it's a necessary evil, I guess, to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Councilman Virgo.
To follow up on what Councilman McMillan was talking about with the early voting,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you were here for the Registrar voters, but I asked, is there grant money to help offset the increased costs for municipalities? Are you aware of, do you share in those grants, or do you have your own grants that you could apply for?
We did share in a grant this year for early voting. I believe it was $24,000. $10,000. That's right, $10,500. So we would split that. And again, we order the ballots in our office, but we collaborate on how many we need,
Sure.
that sort of thing, because now they're in charge of the actual voting day.
So you had to guestimate what the turnout was going to be, and
For this one, you
had no idea.
You had no
frame of reference.
You had no frame of reference. There was nothing previous to this, and who knows what's going to happen in August and November? Because I mean, this is a presidential election. So we had 5 elections this year: January for the state, the town committee, and only 9th district, Republican, and then you also had early voting for presidential, which again, as Sherry said, they already had the electorals early enough. So
I'd like to clarify my understanding on what you and Councilwoman Coletti were speaking of. The archiving services, is that to basically rebind the books, or are you making copies of the pages because the pages are wearing out? What's
okay,
actually happening?
we make copies of the pages for residents that come in, or anybody. It's public record that would request it. They can come in and they can get copies of your deed or whatever. What we're archiving would do is I have to send it out to a company, and they rebind everything. They take them out, they reprint the pages, they put them in a different book, and they put them in a book so that I can pull a tab on it, open it up to that page, pull the page out, and put it on the printer, instead of bending that book back. Because we still have a ton of those that you have to bend back, and they've been around for quite some time. Yes, please. You guys, Lori Moran.
Come up to the podium.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
The archival line just got added recently. The budget never had that. But then when COVID came, we started making the vault better. They added a line to keep it separate, because IQS, we pay them monthly. We receipt through them, we print copies through them, we let the vault people search through. It's our software program that the whole office runs on. We pay them monthly. So that comes out of other contractual. And the archival was meant to scan the documents back so people could see from home. And it was meant to recreate the books, because by state statute, you have to have your books in good shape. So that's, I didn't know if John knew that we added that archival line recently, and that's why there might be some confusion.
Right.
Does I assume state statute requires us to actually have physical copies in the building, so there is no option that eventually we digitize it and that's our only option. We have to have the physical.
Also, even if the building, God forbid, does fall down, Iron Mountain backs us up. So we also pay for that, so that everything that we have is in Iron Mountain. So if, God forbid, you don't know, we could reach out to them and they could recreate.
Okay.
And some of it was used for maps, for archiving, so it's an old vault. It's getting better though.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very
Thank you,
welcome. John, for other professional services, can you just give a little description of what those would be?
Other professional.
Line item 52480.
Okay, is that? Yeah. Okay. Adkins is who we use for the elections.
Okay.
They do most of, and they're the ones who actually do a lot of the printing of the books. So it's kind of a dual thing that they have. The elections, they print up pretty much for, I think, all 169 towns. They print up the ballots and again, the coloring and all that stuff. So it could be quite busy. And again, somebody wants to run, we have to let them run, so that we have to print up ballots to actually do it. And something that we can't really. Yes. Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of I was gonna say, if you get a chance, come on a field trip and come down to the. Well, right. Our stamps, all of that stuff.
Podium.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's just that We
Yeah, you
right.
can't hear
We
us.
can hear you.
No,
through the
I was
microphone,
just
yeah.
trying to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's
I
okay.
said I was not say a word, but I'm just saying that Adkins.
Can you actually?
Yes,
come up?
I can.
Sorry.
Yeah. She's got one doing. That's what I'm doing.
Just so we can hear
It's
you.
just so
have
that
it
we
on
have the record.
Yeah.
Business. Adkins, we send our books there. They recreate them. They provide us with the binders, the paper, stamps. Like John said, everything for election. And they've been with the clerks. I know a lot of times people say, "Oh, send it out to bid." They've been decades, right, Sharon? And so that's what.
And they do more than one service for us.
Yes,
Okay.
they do.
Okay.
Land records and elections.
Okay. Thank you.
Vital binders, yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions? Councilman Pascal?
Thank you. Hi, John. How are you?
Good.
Good. One of the 25 goals you have written down here is to take other forms of payment than cash and check. Where are you on that, and what are you looking into?
Well, I've talked to Ricky recently about that. Well, Ricky Spryer, sorry, and the mayor, and I believe it's coming very soon. The swipe machines seem to be down there already on the counters, but there's no service available at this point in time. What I'd like to do is get away from cash, if possible. We know we don't want to get rid of cash, but if a lot of people come in, hey, I have my debit card, I have my credit card, and you got to walk out to the ATM out in the hallway because we don't have the ability at this point in time to take anything but cash or checks. And just again, security, safety reasons. And I know the MARB is here and that sort of thing, and they want to make sure that we, look, we have several controls in place that we have to report to the state every month. So, or we got to report to Dow and the girls in finance, and they're going to send it back to us if it's not right. So, we have controls in place. So, we're not concerned about the cash from that standpoint, but it's just safety reasons. You can walk in the office, you can walk in the vault with no restrictions. So, you don't want to have any issues. You know what I mean?
I like the fact that you're exploring, getting those up and running, because ease of payment. We're taking payment, and just ease of payment for the people, I think, is always something good that we can improve upon.
I would agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? Councilman McMillan?
Thank you, Chairman. Following up with Chairman Pascal, I was just curious, when we use our debit cards, credit cards, are we going to be charged a fee here?
Not sure yet. I don't know what I don't know if they've had a conversation yet about it. I know it's in the works, but I haven't heard anything concrete yet.
Okay.
If that makes sense. He said it was going to be within the next month, so that someone would talk to, they would talk to a company. It will certainly make things a lot simpler, I think.
Any other questions for John? Councilwoman Coletti?
Just one more quick follow-up question. Back to archiving. The 24 adopted budget was 50,000, but 24 projected expenses are 88,325.
What number are you archiving?
Sorry.
2425?
Yes.
Okay, so.
And so your 25 request and recommendation from the mayor is 52. What was the $30,000 difference, and do you anticipate that overage again?
Is that for the?
Well, the books.
Yeah.
We're doing so many at a time, so.
It's $300 a book. That's a deal. It's $400 if we send one at a time.
Right, and we have.
So we have a lot. There's a lot, and we're faced with, like John said, buying shelves or getting the books recreated so that people can carry them, open them, use them easier.
That makes sense.
And they're old. The books are,
So it's a reduction, I believe, because we don't have as many at a time that we're trying to do. We tried to
send out 10 at a time.
Yeah, try to
For the
send
bargain.
10 or so out at a time, so it wouldn't be such a huge increase for our budget.
Okay, but it was anticipated.
And it's going to be the next couple of years.
Yeah, but it was anticipated at 50, and it's going to be 88. Is that what I'm?
No.
Am I reading that correctly?
No.
with fiscal year 24 projection?
It was 50 in 24. Projection expense. Oh, for 24. Yeah.
So what are you saying? It's less?
Yeah, because
At first, it was that we weren't scanned back at all for people to see. So it turned out to be a problem for title searchers and attorneys, whatever. So we were copying and emailing. So then it became emergent. So I think at one point we had $50,000 put into the budget so we could scan back, because we were not scanned back far at all.
Okay.
But now we go back, how far, 1968? 68.
Okay.
So from home, you can see almost, even the grantor grantee, you can see. The previous clerk had all that scanned back. So that's why the budget was so big for that.
and it says projection, Councilwoman. We put a lot in, say, in a half year. So that number is probably from a previous budget, projecting out, because we would probably only do the average has been about 50, 51, somewhere around there. So that to me would makes more sense.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you both.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Councilman Vargo.
Just to clarify what you just said, John. So the FY24 January actual expenses is $51,740. I'm assuming that it's in here as $88,000 as a projection, because if you take the 51, prorate it, and then add the remaining months rest on this fiscal year, that's what you're going to come out as. But what you're saying is that your office probably front-loaded that expense, and you're going to have very little going into the end of this fiscal year, so it'll probably balance out, or at least much closer than this 35,000 delta.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing there aren't any, thank you very much, Mr. Lewis, for
Thank you, Counsel.
your presentation.
Appreciate
and
you.
answering our questions.
Yeah, no questions.
Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, next up we have our corporate counsel, Attorney Paul Dorsey.
Good evening, members of the council, and thank you for this opportunity to address you with regard to our budget. And I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Does anybody have any questions for Attorney Dorsey? Start. You want to start?
Yeah, let me get
Councilman
one
Donovan?
in.
Okay.
Okay, so I see here on the budget we have the risk manager is no longer under your.
Yes, so you
Budget,
probably saw where we were over budget because of that on that particular line item. The risk manager was a temporary hire, and it came from that line item under this budget. He's now not in the Corporation Counsel's office.
Right. The other thing also is the Assistant Corporation Counsel back tax. You requested 30,000, and the mayor is requesting none of that now. What is that?
The elimination of one assistant corporation counsel for the addition of a second deputy, or call it what you want, but it's just another position that would be a little more involved in an assistant position. So we have an assistant corporation counsel now who takes care of the tax appeals. He also does double duty. He's a talented workers' compensation attorney, so he takes a significant load of workers' compensation for us. What we don't need as much anymore, because tax liens are sold, is we're not doing as much in-house tax foreclosure work. Legal work becoming more and more specialized. What we need is talent in other areas. For example, land use attorney would be fantastic. Someone with significant land use or environmental or employment experience would be quite helpful. So the mayor, it was her suggestion to eliminate that one position that's really became kind of obsolete because the foreclosures are no longer, the taxes are no longer collected through foreclosure, but to give us talent in other areas too, with the goal and the eye towards less outside counsel work.
I agree. I was asking because I just want to make sure that you were okay with that as well.
I am. I mean, I would love all the personnel that I could get.
I get that.
But I understand. I understand the distinction that was made between.
And the paralegal, did we lose a paralegal?
No, the paralegal position went from full-time to part-time.
Okay.
And our paralegal, John, does extensive work in the area of FOI compliance, gathering the documents, maintaining that regulations are complied with responses and everything else. The FOI requests are also reviewed by attorneys in the office, but he does a lion's share of work with every department actually in City Hall with respect to FOI requests.
Yeah, no, listen, you guys, I think I see you sometimes more than I do other people that I'm related to. So you guys are doing a great job down there.
Thank you. I
Nice
appreciate that.
Nice to know that.
I appreciate that.
That's it for now. Thank you.
You're welcome. The same for risk manager. Are we not planning to have one for FY25?
No, we have one, but we lost a risk manager.
Right.
We a temporary a risk manager was hired from a temporary agency. Was paid through the Corporation Council's budget line for other services or professional services. That's no longer the case. So now Chris Tiberio became our full-time employee for the city of West Haven. He no longer is paid out of my budget.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Councilman Pascal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Attorney Dorsey, I just have two questions. So on here is the new council admin assistant. Through our infinite wisdom, we provided into your budget.
Yes.
She works for us for a certain number of hours, but you get her for about 10. Is that correct?
That's correct. And
okay.
I appreciate it very, very much.
You're welcome. And what do you have that individual doing for you? How is she helping you out in your department?
Well, right now we're letting her get up to speed in her new position as the administrative assistant for the city clerk. But Carla has worked in the Corporation Counsel's office several years ago. In fact, when I was an assistant years back, we worked together, and she's very, very knowledgeable with respect to like legal filings and things of that nature. So far, we've been reviewing some files with her, making sure she's back up to speed with the filing system and where things are, and just basically working on efficiency in the office. But there is plenty of the 10 hours will be will be used efficiently. I can assure you on that. And she's a good worker and she's talented.
Yes. She definitely hit the ground running with us, so I'm
Good.
glad to share her with you and that we get the benefits of her services.
No, she could help with, and she has in the past too, with ordinances and resolutions and things of that nature, and just her knowledge of what's been done in the past. So we're not reinventing the wheel. Is a big help having her bank of knowledge that she gained over the years.
Terrific. And my second question is, can you just explain, there's a new line item, ethics board expenses. Can you just explain that? It's kind of personal to both Mr. Vargo and myself.
Sure. Well, I think it's certainly appropriate to fund the ethics commission, the ethics board. If they have to do an investigation, if they have to hire a third party, an attorney or an investigator or someone to do interviews, or that has to come from somewhere. It's a line item, and it is earmarked. So my opinion is that it's not something within the discretion of the Corporation Counsel to spend. That's my opinion. I certainly wouldn't make a decision to spend or not spend from that line item that's been earmarked for the Ethics Commission. I think it would have to come, the request to spend and whatever purchase orders would come from that commission.
And it's fair to say that in case there was a conflict of interest, or if the ethics board was investigating something coming out of the office, that it was separate for that reason, so that the office didn't have control over it and was able to withhold those funds for any reason.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would certainly hope that a corporation counsel for the city of West Haven would understand the ethical obligation of not to spend that earmarked money or to try to control it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Very welcome.
All set?
Yes. Thank you.
Councilman McMillan? Oh, he answered your question? Excellent. Councilman Vargo?
Thank you. I'm now scrounging for questions because Councilman Donovan stole my thunder.
Excuse me.
I'll get you back. Jerry Dorsey, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. On the paralegal position, full time to part time.
Yeah.
What drove that decision?
It was a discussion with John and the type of work that we needed in the office. Cost saving, and then he was amenable to work part time. So it was just something that I concurred with.
I know historically, I'm not saying with your office in the last 4 months, but historically, there have been issues with timely compliance with FOI requests, especially from folks within City Hall. If that was one of his primary job functions, will lowering him down to part-time impact the responsive time from your office?
I don't believe so. I don't see that's something you always have to be conscious of, timely compliance. And I think he's skilled at it now. He's been doing it for quite some time. And I think if his concentration is going to be on FOI, then his time there is well served.
Well, I can tell you that I had dealings with him last year as chair of the Board of Ethics with Chairman Pascal, and I've used his services, and he's fantastic. He's very thorough and quick to get that done.
I agree.
The reducing the outside legal services, which I've asked you about, and I've actually asked prior corporation counsels about.
Sure.
That number has always been very large in my mind, and I know that you can't hire enough staff to cover the breadth of legal experience that we need to have here. You don't have a big enough office, you don't have a big enough budget, but you've reduced it pretty significantly. Is hiring that deputy corporation counsel, does that individual have the skills and experience to, I don't want to say justify, but to make, are you comfortable that that person has the skill and experience to offset the reduction in what you're going to use outside counsel for?
Well, I would certainly be more comfortable if we didn't reduce outside counsel fees, but we haven't hired the individual yet. It wouldn't be until the fiscal year starts. So there would be an interview process and everything else. So I don't have an attorney in mind yet, but there are certain skills that I would necessarily and experience that I would necessarily seek in a new hire. If we're truly looking to reduce the use of outside counsel, okay, as you know, the practice of law has become very, very specialized, as much so as the practice of medicine. You don't go to a cardiologist when you break your bone, okay? So same thing in law. So we need talented attorneys with diverse experience, okay? Outside counsel fees are 100% necessary. There's no question about it. Because by law, sometimes we have to. And bond counsel has to be SEC certified. Sometimes we need environmental lawyers. Sometimes we have conflicts of interest. If an individual employee gets sued as well as the city or a department, we have to provide counsel under the law, outside counsel for that individual. So there has to be a significant line item. When I saw the reduction in this proposed budget, I took a big gulp, but I think we can do it. There's reasons why I think previous years were higher. One of them being that during the time of a leave of absence of my predecessor, the office was very understaffed. And when he first started, the office was very understaffed. We used to have a full-time assistant corporation counsel, full-time, that worked for many years. And then the position was eliminated prior to the last administration. So I think a lot of work that I would anticipate keeping in-house had gone out to outside counsel. Another thing was, recently we've been undergoing a lot of labor negotiations. And it's time, and there is COVID problem, and it's a certain bottleneck can come into a head with COVID and everything else. And these contracts have to be approved by the MARB. And the presentations to the MARB have to be thorough. And they have to, it's a lot of work product, okay? And outside counsel is used for labor negotiations for a number of reasons. One of them being that, my office represents all the departments. We don't represent the various unions, but they're people who work in City Hall that are in various unions. So it is not uncommon to have outside counsel in any organization be the negotiator for management. Okay? All right. We have a certain contract now, the police pension contract, which went up for MARB approval and is now headed to arbitration. The MARB is arbitrating the agreement between the union and management with respect to that pension. That's costly. There's no question about it. It's very, very work intensive. The documents that have to be prepared, the witnesses that are going to be presented. And we're hoping for a very good result. The end result will be a good solid, fiscally sound pension contract. But that's outside counsel, and that drove up the fees quite a bit. And that's why I anticipate, in my remarks to the mayor, I anticipated a little higher outside counsel fees than she has suggested.
Do we periodically negotiate the fees with outside counsel, or do we have just standard retainer agreements with those firms?
I'm not sure what my predecessor has done. I haven't sent much out to outside counsel, but yes, I negotiate fees.
So we don't pay market.
We're not paying. No. I say this is a special municipal rate. I want your special municipal rate, and that's what I expect to get. Now, certain attorneys are more expensive than others. Certain law firms are more expensive than others, and certain types of attorneys are more expensive than others. But I expect a significant consideration for municipal work. Yep.
Do we target larger general practice firms that have that practice in multiple areas, or do we diversify and try to find smaller firms that specialize in certain areas, or a combination?
Combination. Okay. Sometimes boutique firms are wonderful. Sometimes you need the service of a larger firm that has the depth for the type of work that needs to be done. Just for example, bond counsel, that kind of thing.
In hiring a second deputy corporation counsel, is the difference between a deputy and assistant experience, or either in terms of number of years practicing, or is it experience in specialized areas? What differentiates the two positions?
I look at it as experience and the amount of work that is going to be performed by that individual attorney. Now, the deputy position was created, I think, during the Sal Guerra administration. Mark DeGennaro was appointed deputy corporation counsel by Lou Votto, who was corporation counsel, and it was a created position at that time during that administration.
Man, you got a memory.
My father was an assistant corporation counsel at the time with Mark DeGennaro and Lou Votto. And then later, under the first Boer administration, I was an assistant. At that time, we had Henry, he was an assistant, but he was full-time. He wasn't called a deputy. So we had a corporation counsel. We had a deputy corporation counsel, who at that time was Jerry Lackabell. Mike Farrow was corporation counsel. Then we had Henry, who was a full-time assistant corporation counsel. And then we had 2 part-time assistant corporation counsels. I was one of them. And Brian Fisher, who's now Judge Brian. Brian Fisher was with me. So
if you're hiring another deputy that's going to take on more work in-house,
right.
Is that necessarily going to require additional support from a paralegal or administrative staff?
I think with Carla Sarasi, 10 hours with the current situation we have now, I think we're going to be okay.
Okay.
I think we're going to be okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome. Attorney Dorsey, I just had a couple questions. So a 2-part question, actually, for other professional services. There's a significant decrease for FY25. So what would those professional services require, and why is
Why
there
the
such
decrease?
why is there a decrease?
The decrease is because we're no longer paying for the temporary risk manager.
Okay.
Okay. And what are the other professional services? So property appraisals would be a perfect example. An environmental service, like if we needed to do a phase 1 on a property that the city is either considering selling or buying or is involved in, that would be another. And sometimes if we're litigating and we need a court reporter to do a transcript, that would certainly be other professional services. Marshal service for subpoenas or lawsuits if we are involved in prosecuting a lawsuit.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Attorney Dorsey? Councilwoman Callahan.
Hi, good evening. I don't know if this was asked, probably in lieu of what you're asking, is the decrease in library supplies.
Yes.
What are they? And they went down almost more than half.
Yes. The first thing I noticed when I came in, we always had a great library here in Corporation Counsel. There's no question about it. And it was kept up to date, but it's obsolete to have those books. There are some, when we had a powwow, my deputy Mike Agello and Tim Gunning, and we got together and we said, what needs to go and what do we need to keep? So we have some unique sets of books, particularly on municipal law and statutory interpretation and things like that, and treatises that we think are necessary to keep. But we don't need the Connecticut Reporter anymore because it's all online and we don't crack the books. And I remember before doing legal research online, you would go to the indexes and you'd search and you'd spend 2, 3, 4 days doing this. And then you'd go to the books on the shelf and you'd open them up and you put them on the copy machine and you'd make copies so you can have a paper copy of the case and you can write on it. Now we do the legal research much quicker online through the very sophisticated programs, and we have an entire national library at the click of a button. So we were able to eliminate some of the very significant amount of the library costs with absolutely no real loss to our ability to research and write law.
All right, thank you.
All set, Councilwoman? All right. Any other questions for Attorney Dorsey? Councilwoman Coletti?
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Sure.
along the same lines of the ethics board expenses,
Mhm.
the Fair Rent Commission is now fully appointed
Yes.
and will be operating. According to the statute, do you anticipate any expenses for that commission, given they're empowered also to conduct investigations and?
Hard to say. I think they're going to impose fines and collect fines, and that might fund their work. But I could not give you I don't want to give you an off-the-cuff answer with respect to that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? Seeing there are none, thank you so much, Attorney Dorsey,
You're
for
very
your
welcome.
presentation and for answering our questions this evening.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So we are now in recess until Tuesday, April 16th at 6 p.m.